Hey there, creative people. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Ryan Leacock, and this is the podcast for those of us who see the beauty in the disgusting. This week, I'm talking to Jon Kutt, the man behind High Road Designs. Jon does not give a fuck, but maybe in the nicest and most encouraging way possible. Jon tells me about coming back to drawing at 46 and the massive changes that he made in his life to get him out of bitterness and back to creativity. We talk hard truths, we have a few laughs, and talk about balls way more than I ever expected to on this podcast. It's a fantastic chat. You're really going to enjoy it. How's everyone doing? Okay. I want to throw something out there. I've been thinking about starting a creative club or community or something along those lines. Something to take what the podcast is doing and take it a bit further, a little bit deeper. I'm still figuring out what that would look like, and I hate when I talk about things that I'm still figuring out on here, but here we are. So if forming a creative community or something along those lines interests you, shoot me an email at ryan@creativepeople-podcast.com and let's have a little chat. All right, well, that's enough bumper talk. Let's get into it with Jon Kutt, the High Road Design.
Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Jon, how you doing?
Good. It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
I don't have a professional setup or anything. I hope it's not so, unrefined over here.
There you are. Hey.
There I am.
How's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm very good, thank you.
Nice to put a face to, how do I say this? All the balls I've seen on your Instagram.
There we go. We're a one-note band. Here, I'm going to get some light in here just to...
I'm super excited. I'm like, sometimes I'm nervous. This time I wasn't nervous because I was so like, oh, I want to get into it with Jon. So that overcame my nervousness. Do you have any questions for me before we dive in?
Oh man, I'm good. I've done a few of these, so I'm not. I don't get nervous. I'm excited about it.
All right.
I love talking, and the pandemic has kept me silent, other than my ball drawings.
That's amazing. All right, Jon. Let's start on that note. I'll have you introduce yourself. Tell everyone what you do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jon Kutt, aka the High Road Design. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, ball wrangler from Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, Canada.
Thank you for being on the podcast today, Jon. I'm super excited about talking with you. I love your illustrations as much as I hate them, kind of. In our initial text back and forth, I was like, your illustrations delight and disgust me. And you're like, that's exactly what I'm going for.
That's it. Yeah, that's the key.
That's the key.
Yeah, it's that balance in between both.
Yeah.
That's what life is. That's what human beings are,
That's true. You're just a little more in touch with it than most of us,
sure,
I guess.
Sure. I'm too old to care anymore. It's generally what it is. It's age.
Okay, well, let's go back. When did you kind of discover your creativity and that you wanted to draw and express yourself?
I loved drawing when I was a kid, but I just was never very good at it. I was actually in the local paper, the Kitchener-Waterloo Record.
Okay.
When I did posters, as I was called poster boy back in the day. I used to do all the posters for a local band. And one of the bylines on the second page of the article was, "Cut, failed grade 8 art." And I'm like, really? That's what you're going to call out? I'm like, you sons of... That's what journalism is. Fake news. Anyway, so I drew a lot when I was a kid, but I wasn't very good until probably grade 9. That's when I started focusing on it. And, I'd come from a not super creative family, but my dad was very funny with his language and the way that he would speak to us and everything. So it kind of kept us, elevated creatively. I feel
like on your toes, like nothing's
quite very quick-witted.
Yeah. I like that. And like it's funny how that comes through. Like the wit is a big part of your drawing.
Yeah. Well, I'm a nostalgic based artist, right? It's a very personal view because it's all stuff that I grew up with that formulates what I do now, right? So it's cool. It's cool that the creativity when I was a kid, is now able to translate in, because I never got into the serious side of fine art.
Yeah.
I got more into, I need an outlet for my creativity now that my day job is a little less creative. So I can move into the childlike sense of creating.
So when you were younger, you always loved drawing. And then what happened as you got older? In high school, you kind of found like...
High school, I did very well in art, and I was really into art. And then I went to illustration at Sheridan College in Brampton, Ontario.
Yeah.
That just sucked the will of sucked the will of it out of me. College wasn't for me. I wish that I wish I had either gone later in life when I could have taken it more seriously, or not gone at all because of the experience that I had. And it was very personal. It was very, I think I would have done well had I gone later on. So I did 1 year and then dropped out and became a graphic designer. And that's what I did for 20 plus years then.
And during those 20 plus years, like that's what you dedicated all your time to. You weren't really going after your own expression of art. And talk to me about those years. If there's like a...
Well, I was a gig poster artist, so it was very personal still. I was, my love for music and everything was definitely still part of it. So I was the bar manager and graphic designer for Starlight, which is a local nightclub.
Yeah.
And they bring in awesome acts. So I would do all the posters for the club, but then also do stuff for the bands that would come through. They'd see my posters and they'd go, "Oh, can you do this?" So I had a good relationship with Six Shooter Records out of Toronto. I had, just whatever. Got some really cool connections that way. So it was still creative, but then probably around, what was it? Maybe 15 years ago, I quit Starlight and I went to Quarry Communications, which is a marketing company.
Yeah.
And I was a senior graphic designer there for 15 years.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, two things. I definitely used to steal your posters when I could.
A lot of people did.
I know that I at least stole two. I didn't know it was you before we chatted, though, but now I'm like putting connections together. And another thing, and this is, I don't know if I'll keep this in. I used to work at Quarry, not at Quarry, Skylight, Nelson Dunk. I'm Nelson's friend. We worked together for a while. So I was in Quarry, so I probably saw you walking around.
Probably, yeah. I worked there. Yeah, I was 15 years. I did a lot of stuff with Nelson because I did a lot of the vector stuff for video stuff. I worked on a few projects that Skylight took on. I was the vector artist. I was the PowerPoint guy. I was the accessibility.
Okay.
And I was the tech. So basically anyone had any problems with fonts or anything, I was the guy who would figure it out. So it was a varied role, and it was a good role for a long time, but it started to tear at me.
Yeah.
The work itself was great. The people I worked with were awesome. I would have loved to stay there forever, but I had other yearnings.
Yeah. And I think that's a tough thing for people to understand sometimes, that there's something inside of you that's like, this is fine, but I want to do something else. Talk to me about that a little bit.
So, design became another beast, where design all of a sudden became, you do UI, UX. And it's like, no, I don't. That's a very different creative pursuit than what I want to do. Yeah. And I started to get more and more, that's the work that was coming. I couldn't keep up, and it was neither fulfilling for me, nor did I feel like I was giving value to the clients.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I don't want to do this. So therefore, should I be doing it for a paying customer? Yeah. Whatever. I started doing a lot of freelance with Quarry, and it was good. The work shifted. Back when I first started at Quarry, I was working, some nights I'd work until 4 a.m. Some nights, most nights I'd be home by 8 or 9 at night. And there was no time for whatever. But the work-life balance shifted at some point, and I was able to come home and then do a full freelance thing.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
And started drawing about 4 years ago again.
Yeah.
So I didn't draw for almost 20 something years. I started again when I was 46.
Wow.
And now it's been 4 years It's 1 year now that I've been freelance. So I quit Quarry last October, and I've been freelance illustrator slash designer ever since. And it's gone fantastic. It's gone better than I could have ever imagined. I wish I had done it 10 years ago, but I wouldn't have been ready 10 years ago. And the path wasn't laid for me 10 years ago. It was a very scary thing at 46 to decide to really focus on things. And I had some trauma in my life that helped drive the need for a creative outlet. I had my daughter, so there was this moment of feeling like I wanted to have a well-rounded life, because my life had changed drastically at 46.
Mm-hmm.
So it all came together, and it culminated into me getting my iPad, picking up Procreate, and focusing on it, just wanting to do the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to draw my childhood. I wanted to base it in the comics that I love, the magazines that I love, the movies that I love, the TV, the music, everything, and have it culminate into this creative thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hit a creative renaissance for myself at 46. Like I literally felt like I was in tune with all the creative energy I felt I wanted to have for so long. And with it, dropped off a lot of the bitterness that I had towards creative, because it's one of those things. It's like you get to a point, either you're a big fish in a small pond, or like you're never good enough to hit that next peak. And I blamed it on everything else other than me for a long time. And me accepting that I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, regardless of whatever anyone else wanted, that became the key focus for me drawing all the time. And therefore, it blossomed into a more creative way of expressing with other artists and talking to other people and building a community, which I never did before.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I don't know. That's the whole thing, that when it like lines up and you're in touch with that creativity, like that's it's like peak,
Yeah. It took a long time. And you know what? I was filled, social media was a real, I actually went out with friends and I was like, I feel so bad about myself all the time, because I'm looking at all these other people doing stuff and I just want to do that too. But it wasn't me going, hey, good for you guys doing this. It was like, why can't I do it? You guys are doing it. That's just it's not fair. It's not right. And I got really bitter, and I got really like I wasn't building anything, and it had to shift.
Yeah. How long do you think you were in that zone?
At least 3 or 4 years, at least, before I started drawing again. Even like I started trying to be more like, I started doing gig posters again. I started doing like extra stuff. Like I do flashers for Naked and Famous. I had a few clients that were allowing me to be more creative. All the stuff for Riverfest.
Yeah.
That was great. And they put their trust in me. But yeah, I was so consumed with the fact that I was better than what my social media did, that it overwhelmed me, and I became so bitter, and so I was just awful. I was just a horrible mess inside. Yeah, and I needed to change, because otherwise I don't know what would have happened. I would have had to leave I would have had to leave social media entirely, because it was so detrimental to me.
Yeah. Well, that's like quite a big shift that you made. Like, talk to me about, so you drew a ton before, right? And then you came and you got your iPad. Talk to me about that experience of like,
I think it was one of those things, because I hadn't really drawn in that way. I had shifted from painting pencil and ink over to digital when I was doing design, and everything was vector based, and I could do a lot of stuff in Illustrator. Like I consider my skills at Illustrator to be that's my pinnacle of the skills that I have. Procreate is way down here.
Okay.
But Procreate opened up the ability for me to ideate very quickly, and to do things while I'm watching TV or sitting, and like whatever. I can still be present in other things while I'm drawing.
Yeah.
And I can take it anywhere. I don't have to have a dedicated workspace.
Yeah.
Like for me, I wanted to start drawing, and I'm like, I don't want a drawing table. I don't want like to have a lamp downstairs. I don't want to have a special stool that I have to sit on with pencil sharpeners, and where do I keep my T-squares? All that garbage.
Yeah.
It just wasn't me. And there was a lot of shame attached with it too, because you feel like digital is kind of a cop out, is what I feel. I felt for a long time. It really does free your mind because nothing is permanent. You're able to ideate and onion skin everything on top. So I start out with a rough sketch, lay on another sketch, lay on another. There's no paper involved. There's no nothing. It's fantastic. And it's become so much of a part of my workflow that even my vector work is now started in Procreate. Like it was me going to my wife and saying, listen, I'm feeling really low and stifled creatively, and I really want to start drawing. And I've heard a lot of things about Procreate. Can I buy an iPad Pro when we don't have, it's like that's a toy unless you're doing something with it, right? And it's an expensive toy.
It's a pricey toy, yeah.
So she gave me the go-ahead to do such a thing.
Yeah.
I thank her for it every day. It's one of those things, you're in a unit, you're in a family.
Yep.
You take risks all the time, but I've taken risks. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And like I buy it, and then I'm like, I've never used it again. Just like a kid.
I have so many of those too.
A stupid teen. Yeah.
It's like they're embarrassing, but you're like, but I don't want to get rid of it yet. Maybe I'll pick it up later.
Yeah. And I have to quell it all the time. I'm like, oh, I want to do screen printing. It's like, oh no, don't buy the screen printing garbage because you're just gonna have a room full of it. It's just gonna be pay somebody to do it, dummy. Anyway.
Oh my goodness, I love that. So so you thought about it. You're like, okay, well, I don't want to do that, but the iPad kept sticking with you, right? You're like, this is worth, screen printing's not worth the time, but the iPad and the drawing was like, this is worth it.
Yeah. Well, and it was so quick, and it was like, I had a new daughter, so I was sitting in a dark room waiting for her to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Or, like trying to be quiet in another room.
Goodness, yeah.
So the iPad was just perfect because I could create anywhere. And it kind of went off fairly quickly once I focused on it. I had used Procreate before and I hated it. But once I started to focus on it and be like, okay, you're not going to be precious about your art. You're going to create something every day and you're going to post it. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah. I have 30 years of ideas of what to. I never run out of anything to draw. What wanes and waxes is my ability to draw what's in my head. But like my ideas, because I don't have that filter of good idea, bad idea. Everything is a good idea and a bad idea. That there's a well everywhere. So
I love what you said about like when you first have a kid, your house becomes like a minefield. You can't you can't walk in certain areas of in your house when they're sleeping. Like so good thing you had an iPad, not a drawing table.
It was like war. It was like you're waiting. There's a sniper up in a nest, and it's like you're literally just walking around on eggshells. Like I'd walk on the floor and it'd creak, and I'd stop and I'd freeze, and I'd wait for a good 2 minutes before I would move again because I'm like, this is terrifying.
I just got them down. Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And okay, you said that you don't have a filter between knowing what a good idea and a bad idea is. Talk to me about that.
It's an idea.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things. I think anything can be a good idea and a bad idea depending on where you come from. And it's one of those things. The only minefield we have now is what is considered right and wrong. And I draw a lot of balls. That could get me flagged. But I try to do it in good-natured ways where it's not like, hey, I'm all about balls. It's me going, oh, look at this stupid thing. It's like but it has to be that filter, and it has to come from that. It can't be, I don't want to ever, I had a couple things where people would send me messages and say, hey, this kind of offended me.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it down because I don't care enough about it to go, well, this is my art. It's like, no, if you're truly offended by it and you have a reason for it being offended, and I can't talk to you and explain my point of view to it, then there's no point. So everything has that level to it, right? We live in a world that it can be very, very, dissected very in multiple ways. And I try to do everything with as much good nature and with that level of just wanting to create without wanting to offend, just to get it out of my head. So everything has that balance. It could be good, it could be bad. I try to keep it on the good side as much as possible, you know. I try to filter out the ones that, is it hurtful?
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything hurtful. Even, expressing certain things. I did one that was like good vibes only. Then like the next week I was like, oh, why would you do that? Like, that's I hate that phrase. Why would you even do it? And I did it out of fun. Like it was just like, I'll have a hippo playing a vibraphone. It's good vibes only. It's not meant
Yeah.
to whatever, but I'm
Yeah.
like, that kind of language bothers me because it can really affect somebody that's, maybe going, that's not good vibes. No one has good vibes all the time. I
Yeah.
have shit vibes a lot of the time. I'm sorry if I swore.
No, you're allowed. You're allowed to swear. I'm like,
All right.
I'm always like
Yeah.
reading the other person. So it's interesting that you brought it up, because one thing that you seem not only in touch with is like embracing like ugly visuals, but also like ugly feelings too. Touch me about that a little bit.
You have to.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things. For me, art is therapy anyway. So, I'm at my happiest. So I've been a full-time illustrator for a year now. But I won't stop doing my daily drawings because those are the things that I truly enjoy. And the paid work rarely matches the level of satisfaction that I get out of the other stuff. And I think, especially, for me, I started doing this because of just some shitty things that were going on in my life that I really wanted to just get away from. And I didn't want to delve into just watching TV or whatever. I wanted to do something because I wanted to, I just wanted to have that.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things. I think because of my age too, it's like, I don't know. I don't care if I put myself out there. I don't care if I'm expressing, my own personal view in a way that might not, like just puts me in a vulnerable state because I need to, because, whatever, you grow up and you don't get a chance to get that stuff out.
Yeah. But now
But if you can do it in a way and you have people that go, oh, I relate to that. Community is built on that. And for me, it's like there's a split between the creation and the actual audience that both feed me and feed whatever, right? So I get a lot from the people who follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
That helps me sort out my mind in a way that allows me to get all the dirty laundry out. Right? So it's free therapy is what it is.
Yeah. You're hitting the sweet spot of like you are kind of being vulnerable, but because you treat it so lightly and you're just like, yeah, well, there's more tomorrow, or like it's that you're able to like live in that spot. And I like that. Like it.
I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky that I don't have any, long lasting problems with handling depression or whatever. I feel very blessed to be able to process something one day and then be on to something else the next day, and to be able to wake up and feel okay after a day.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that luxury, and I really do take that into consideration. So I try to give it weight when I'm dealing with something heavy, when I'm dealing with, whatever. Obviously with the pandemic, there was a lot of stuff from racial injustice to, sexual inequality. It's easy for me because I'm sitting here in Kitchener in my warm basement and whatever, and I'm not necessarily dealing with the hardships the way that people have. But I feel that I have to do something in order to express what frustrates me or whatever. It obviously comes from a different place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very crazy thing. It's good because I feel like I'm able to have a voice, but sometimes I'm like, sometimes my voice just doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
I think it has to be more, you have to have that balance again. It's all balance.
Yeah, it's all balance. I wanted to ask you about that spark of inspiration. When, like, you said that you have so many ideas. Well, what does an idea look like when you're kind of playing around with it? Like, in whether it's your morning drawing or like just something's like eating at you. What's that look like?
If I look at my Instagram feed, everything is just that apparent snap, right? Like, it's like, oh, what about a hip hop armadillo? What would a hip hop armadillo say? What would the hip hop armadillo be? So it's basically, I'm going to see if I can draw an armadillo, or I'm going to see if I can draw a guy trying to hug himself. Or, if usually my stuff it's either I have a saying that I want to illustrate, which is what I've been doing lately, where it's like I have a phrase that I really like, and it's like, what's my visual going to be? Or it's, I really want to draw a sloth walking with a goose, and like whatever, like just weird combinations of things. And a lot of it is driven from, Mad Magazine, Jack Davis, like, Mort Drucker, like all these artists that would just do such a wide range of work and could draw anything.
Yeah.
And, bring it all together into this good natured lump of garbage.
Oh man, I love it. So the phrase thing, is that like during the day, like you're just like thinking about that phrase, or like is it just like, or is it more of like, because it always sounds like drawing improv, like you're just like, you sit down, you're like, I need a suggestion and I need an animal and let's go.
Yep.
Yeah.
It kind of is. It's just, it literally, I just have so many things that I just, whatever. It's like I'll watch a movie and it'll give me a phrase, or like whatever. There's always, because I'm not worried about a finished product. I'm not necessarily trying to sell people something that, I'm not perfect. I am far from a well executed idea myself. So my ideas can be more half baked. And there's times where I look back on some of the ones I've done and I'm like, it's cringe. It's just awful. But generally a lot of this stuff, it's like, oh, that's how I felt at that time. That's where I was at. That's what I was into. This is what I wanted to get out. And I was able to experiment and get that stuff out.
Well, talk to me about finding that balance though, because sometimes you do have to sell, and like, how do you switch modes?
I'll be honest with you. Instagram has seriously changed the way that, so number one, I'm dealing with artists that have been my absolute heroes since I started design way back in the day. I've chatted with, the guys from House Industries, or, Tim Biscup, or Cody Hudson, or like these people that you just, and it might be just small banter here and there or whatever, but it's like to see someone who like, I'm trying to think of anyone. It's like you see someone has liked a post, and you're like, oh my God, like whatever. That keeps you driving forward. And then with my Instagram stuff, it's like I get people just coming to me to offer me work, and I'm like, what did you see that makes you want to hire me? Because I'm not curating it. I'm not going, this is all my whatever.
Yeah.
It's all over the place, but it's all similar. Like my stuff all looks like it belongs together. Right? It has the same sentimentality and it has the same execution generally.
Yeah.
The style might change, the whatever, but there's something.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had to really worry about that until I'm working on client projects. And then I can still focus because I've been, I've been a graphic designer for years. Right?
So you put on that hat,
Yeah. You know what you have, what you have to execute, and then you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a benefit of like that it took you to 46 to go out on this path? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Because it took away that like, I need to make this work.
It's frustrating when I say this sort of stuff, because it's a lot of people struggle with stuff. A lot of people have this thing. I've gotten to the point now, I would have struggled with this if I was 35 going through this, or 25 going through this. I don't know how I would have done it. I think I would have so many ups and downs. I feel so blessed because it's happened to me so late in life
Yeah.
that I'm like, it's like everything's a gift. Everything's a blessing. This is good.
But at
You know?
40 and 42, when you were frustrated, like you didn't feel that way, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, definitely not. And I don't think, I think it's one of those things. It's like I'm amazed at how far I've gone in 3 years. I am. I'm truly amazed at it because it's like it's weird. I've had like the New York Times call me up to talk to me about doing work. I did stuff for, Jimmy Kimmel. I did stuff for, like it's like, and they call me up and it's like, I'm like, whoa, it's weird because you've seen my art. You know what I do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it happens. And
I
it's
thought
just,
you'd appreciate this. On my wall, on my little board, I put here to remind me, and I put a little ball sack. I don't know if you can
there
see
we
it.
are. That's me.
Yeah,
That's
I was
pretty
like,
much, that should become part of my signature. A little sack.
that's amazing. So I really appreciate just you're very vulnerable, but you're also you're very abrupt at the same time, and I appreciate that kind of candor and not like sidestepping the tough stuff. Like here, I'm 36 and some days I have good days as a creative and some days I have bad days. And it is comforting to hear you say like, yeah, I was there too. But to hear you say, I found some peace in this now, that's encouraging.
I still have tough days, but
Yeah.
I know that those tough days are going to be behind me after a day or two. Thank goodness, knock on wood. I have a lot of problems. Like, trust me, my business savvy is far from, that's what causes me the most stress now. Me drawing my stupid little drawings, that's one thing. But like me organizing and juggling a full calendar and everything is just, lost. It's horrible.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you ever feel like you're misunderstood?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I feel like, I still have moments where it's like, why don't people understand what I'm trying to say? They're only commenting on this. It's a bigger thing. And it's like, oh, get over yourself. It is, again, it's one of those things. Whenever I have those drawings that I'm like, this is amazing. The people are going to freak out over this. This is going to cause such a conversation to be brought up. And meanwhile, it's like, 27 likes. Ah! You people are missing the point. Yeah, I try not to have too many of those things. I do.
But it still happens.
Yeah, it's again. I'm very basic about what I try to get out of art. It's basically trying to. It's like the diary of a 50-year-old man. That's all it is. Like it's like a doodle sketchbook, but I just happen to have a little bit more skill at doodling. That's all, and I have tools in my toolkit that help it look a certain way and whatever. I just like being able to create with people.
Yeah.
I like being able to if I can help anyone by saying, I'm old as balls and now I draw balls for a living, if that that helps anyone, I'm like, that's amazing. It's great to have that out there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
One of the questions I like to ask people is if you were to imagine your creativity and give it a physical form, what would that look like? What's that look like for you?
Jesus, I don't know. Probably just like a half feral child. I don't know, scrabbling at the dirt, trying to sketch a cave bear or something. Yeah. I'm assuming anytime you try to draw the world around you, right? Like, and that's what it is. It's like I've surrounded myself with my armor of memories, of nostalgia and whatever, and it's constantly me trying to capture that and get it out there so that someone goes, oh, I liked Columbo too, or hey, the shared experience thing. So I'm assuming that's, it's basically an animal just that is able to just trying to express themselves, like a bowerbird. Yeah. Trying to build their little house out of the things that they think is going to get them the accolades. Right? Yeah. But also it's their in their inner clock. It's in their inner workings. They have to build these things. These things are hardwired in.
Why do you think they're hardwired in for some people and not for others necessarily?
I think there's a lot of noise, man. There's so much noise in the world. So much noise that people have to filter through in order to become creative. Truly creative people, if you look at people that are truly like creative forces, I'll look at someone like Wayne White, he was the art director for Pee Wee's Playhouse. He's an amazing artist. He's incredible. His prolific output is because that's all his focus is primarily on that. It's amazing to see it because you need laser focus. If you have to worry about paying your bills, you have to worry about what your family thinks, what people think now. Like your stuff is all out there, so you have the social media audience viewing and judging your stuff as well as yourself judging your stuff. There's a lot of noise that you have to break through in order to get stuff down.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of filtering. It's like, no, that's, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's a horrible idea. If you just take that idea that you thought was great and just do it without thinking about it, you're going to be better off than if you think about it for a few days and then whatever, like there's always that spark of creativity that has to be seized. It's like a Joseph Campbell. It's like the power of myth. Everyone has their path and it's chosen. Every idea has a path, and you can either make it an easy path or you can make it a hard path. But, like, you have to get that down the right avenue in order to have it do what it needs to do for you. And everyone has a different way of doing that creativity.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing up all the noise and the pressure and all the stuff that you have to sort through before you're even really doing anything.
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Like the modern world has so many distractions and so many things that we're trying to filter out in order to get simple ideas out. You're not just thinking of getting it out there and creating something. You're thinking about how it's going to be received and how, like whatever. Everything that you see, it used to be when I was an artist back in the day, an illustrator. I liked an illustrator, and I would have to go out and I would have to buy a Juxtapose magazine, or I'd have to buy another magazine, and I'd go, oh, look, there's 4 of their paintings, or there's whatever. Now you have the entire breadth of their work at your fingertips, constantly inundating you and constantly allowing yourself to judge yourself against them. And that noise is huge. It's enormous. Just breaking through that.
Yeah.
And then going, why aren't I accepted by my peers? How do I reach out to these people if I don't put myself on the same level as them? It's awful that we have to, our human nature is to compare ourselves to others, or to go, why do they have this and I don't? Or why can't I do what they do at the level that they do it all the time? It really stifles a lot. And that's the world that we live in now, because we're completely surrounded by the work that drives us, but it's also making us judge ourselves.
Yeah. It's like a two-edged sword. Yeah.
It's a paradox, man.
Yeah. But it's also part of what makes the good parts, so fun and so interesting that you get to play in this arena, but there's all that other stuff too.
Oh yeah. Well, it really did take me to be happy for my fellow man and woman that are succeeding in art, and to go, it's okay if you can't paint. It's okay if you can't carve wood. It's okay if you can't do this.
Yeah.
Those people are doing it great.
Yeah.
Enjoy their work rather than judge yourself against it.
Yeah.
Because I might love to do other things, but it's like, go with your what you love and try other things now. Don't be afraid of trying other things and sucking at it.
Yeah.
When you get older, you start worrying about, oh, I can't do that if I'm not good at it. Sure you can. Everyone's not good at something. You have to work at it. You have to put yourself out there again.
But then if you're going to do it, like you said before, you got to bring it to that laser focus.
Yeah, of course. But that laser focus can come in a broader range for some people. It's answering what you need. It's answering the call of what your mind is asking for creatively, which can be very fluid and very, very, very can be elusive, but it can also be very, very easy to grasp. But it just doesn't seem like it should be that easy. You're like, no, it can't be that easy. All I have to do is draw a tree full of testicles. That's it.
That's the one.
And all of a sudden I'm there. What? That's not in any rule. That's not in the artist's way. I didn't read that in there. Picasso never spoke about this.
That's hilarious. That's the one I showed my wife when I was talking about what I was doing today. I was like, is this guy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's telling that my most famous piece is still Titface, my superhero with the breasts for on the face and then the eyes down here. And she says, "My eyes are down here." And that is the most like it's been pirated, it's been slash posted it.
Talk to me about the day that you were drawing that. Was that one of your daily?
Yeah. It's just a stupid thing that I drew. And then I had 40,000 likes on it, and it was like shared everywhere. And it got stolen for NFTs, like all this garbage. I was like, oh my gosh. But that's my Mona Lisa. When that becomes your Mona Lisa, that really puts you in your place. That really tells you where, stick with that stuff. Don't get too heavy. Don't start doing oil painting or something like that. No one's gonna care.
Just keep to the balls and the tits.
Yeah. That's what the people want.
Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, but if we rewind a little bit, you also talked about big concepts of that urge, that thing inside of it. It's saying do this thing, and the ideas that want to be made and the ideas that can be made well or take time. You describe them as kind of having their own force, what an idea wants to be.
Yes.
Talk to me about that a little bit.
And sometimes you'll never get it. I had one of my posts, my most recent post is, a picture of me drawing. And then there's a post of Jericho's The Raft of Medusa up above my head. So I have grand visions. And then it's me drawing a ball sack on the page. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what it is. What I think in my head is thinking of masters who have influenced, Jamie Hewlett or, Jack Davis again, to bring in these artists. Mm. I think in that, it's like when I think of the art, I think of it as if these people are doing it. Mm. And I don't have the actual skill set to do it. So I have to temper that with what I know I am good at. And it is one of those things. I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, I'm not good and whatever. I know I'm good within a degree of what I am. I know I can draw a lot of stuff and I'm very prolific and whatever. But a lot of times the ideas, I always expect to come back to them and clean them up and get them to a point, but I never do. Because once it's out of me, I'm like, okay, I'm done that. I've got it out. It's out of me. And now I can just move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And that for me is the way I like to create. It's kind of chaotic and it doesn't necessarily have the finality of I've spent 6.5 months painting this one oil painting and here it is. And oh, look at how beautiful it is. It's like, no, I create every day and I create a bunch of stuff and it's all very personal to me and it's all very whatever. Yeah. And that is it's like I get emotional release. I get almost like a spiritual thrill. I get there's all this emotion that comes with me being able to post something and realizing it's okay, I got that out. I wish that I could have done it better. I wish that I could have spent more time on it. And because I don't even use reference. Yeah. There's something in me. I will every once in a while, but usually I'm just what does a bear look like? And I'll start drawing it. And I'm like, this doesn't look like a bear. I'm like, keep going. And then all of a sudden I draw it and I put it up and I'm like, I look next day. I'm like, that doesn't even look like a bear. I don't even know what that is. What kind of creature is that?
I love that.
It's just the muse, man.
So did it take a while to get comfortable with that though? I mean, I felt that way sometimes and I've looked at people who their artwork, it does take months and it's a masterpiece and go, well, I guess I'm not. Yeah. Did you deal with that?
Way. I did back when I was bitter. I was always like, oh, yeah. Why are they able to do this? And why, what's wrong with me? Or what's, why I wish that someone would pay me to work for 6 months on one piece. And it's like, no, you would never do that. I would never, ever be able to do that. I just get so neurotic about getting things I just want to get the idea on the page. I don't want to do it in a way that I'm like, oh, I'm proud of this within my lowered expectations. And then feel happy that I'm able to get that out and then bask in all the glory. Oh, you're fantastic. Oh, you speak exactly the way I feel. Just kidding. I don't do it for the glory, but there is something where it's like everyone has a different way of creating, and there's like you think about it. All right, you have take a great artist, take Marina Abramovich. This is someone who has a vision. This is someone who whatever, but she had to filter out what she thought art is. And she created something new out of it. And a lot of people would go, that's nuts. That's not art. That's not, what are you doing? What is this? To have that focus on like, to go, this is how I want to express myself. This is what I'm going to do to express what I need to get out. And a lot of times that's what creativity is. It's the creative urge. And urge is very definitely is the word to use, because it's something that can't be denied if you choose not to deny it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't, go into their urges, and they quell it. They keep it down and keep it down. But when you have someone that's truly, truly, truly innovative and whatever, oftentimes they're creating at a pace that takes everything else out. It takes everything else out of the equation and goes primarily into their brain and how they choose to see it. So someone that learns how to paint and does, these massive oil paintings that take months, that for them is their Zen state, and it's what they choose. That's how they choose to do it. And it's incredible that there's people like that. And that once you realize, it's like, I can't compare myself to that person, but I'm really going to love that person's work. I'm this woodworker. I love his stuff, and it's like, it's awesome. It's awesome to be supportive of other creators. That is a form of creativity in itself, because you are feeding yourself to get more of your own stuff out while eating all these other people's beautiful works and taking them and internalizing them and shoving them back out.
I love it. And that can be done on social media. That's the positive side of interacting on social media and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And I'll say this. The other awesome thing about social media is reach out to an artist you love and send them a message. You'll get something back. Probably.
Yeah.
Not all the time. But when you do, it's like, wow, like, there's a connection that way now, which never would have been, it's never been in the cards.
Yeah.
Like it's truly incredible. Doesn't always work that way. And it shouldn't even be, it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'm going to see if I can, send a message to Michelangelo, see if he'll send me a carrier pigeon back. It's like, it's more like, I'm having trouble with something, and this is a person who I respect. I'm going to ask them a question, and see if they can answer it for me. And a lot of times, you will get honest, awesome answers from people.
Yeah,
it goes beyond what you would consider normal at that point.
Yeah,
but it's very cool.
It is cool. It sounds like it's maturity that changes that perspective from toxic, why are they doing that and I'm not doing that, to a complete celebration. Like it's a completely different perspective. There's no middle ground.
Absolutely. And at one point I used to judge people for work too. There was I'm like, why is that person so good? They're not even that good. But now I'm like, if they're doing what they do and they're creating the way that they want to create, that's awesome. I love it. I think it's fantastic to see people starting. And oftentimes when you start on something, there's going to be a lot of things that will make you say no to yourself. It's amazing to see people, it's like, oh, I know it's stupid or whatever. It's like, don't even say that. Create, put it up, and be happy that you did it. And I'll support. I'm all for that. It's awesome to see the community coming together around artists and then saying, just create. It doesn't have to be, it's not about likes and whatever. We all make it that way.
Yeah. What would your advice be to yourself at like 35?
Don't take it so heavy sometimes. Don't let it crush you. And don't let, if you have a hard time, don't let it destroy you. And don't, take other people's successes and use it to weaponize it against yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think I always held a lot of creatives at a very high pedestal. And when I meet them, it was like meeting gods. in some ways. It would always overwhelm me.
Yeah.
When I met Gary Taxali, and it was just like, it was like a fawning little baby, and it was awful, but it's one of those things where I'm like, no, there's a human condition that makes people create. There is something in humanity that everyone has some creative spark in them. They have something that they enjoy that other people, even if it's, drawing testicles. I got a hell of an audience for testicle drawers. I don't think all my people are like, ball doctors. I think they're oh, he really draws a good testy. I don't think that's
It's scientifically accurate.
What's that?
It's like scientifically accurate.
I like how he does one smaller than the other. It's very true. It's
Nails it.
A lot of truth. He draws pubes better than most people that I've seen. Sorry to sidetrack. It was such a crash.
Well, what I love about you is that like you have this maturity that is it's infectious and it's encouraging, and then also you have this immaturity that's also just like, yeah, fuck it, let's just draw some balls. I love that mixture.
I think everyone has to find the balance that they're happiest with everything. I think everything has a yin and a yang, and to deny the opposite of what you are, sometimes you have to kind of inject some of it in order to add a little bit of discomfort for yourself or to the people who you want to be the audience for what you're doing. I do a lot of live draws, so when people pop in and I'm just drawing this, this is horrible what I'm drawing, but you just popped in and now you're watching me draw it on a Friday night. Like, what? I don't even know what you're thinking right now. How does that make you feel?
The future's weird.
It is. It definitely.
Jon, is there anything lately that you saw that really stood out to you?
Oh, I'm blown away every day. There's always something. There's Jeremy Brunel out of London, Ontario. He did the posters, all painted posters for Call the Office back in the day. He does these portraits of pets and people that are just so spectacular. And he's been doing album covers lately that just blow me away. Mab Graves is doing her Drawloween, and everything she does she's just a creative monster. Brett Stenson. There's so many artists that I follow just because I'm like, what are they gonna do now? Like, look at you, and then they do it. And I'm like, oh, it's like watching like someone dunk a basketball. You're like, whoa,
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of things going on that are just really, 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 really cool now.
Yeah. That was one of the core impulses about this podcast. It was like, I just want to be able to talk to people that are doing cool stuff and that are in some way engaged in making, whatever that means. So I totally know what you mean.
It's a broad thing, man.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And I just want to celebrate it, and kind of be like, also, we're all in this same mess. So thank you for being in the mess with me today, Jon. I really appreciate you taking the time. Keep drawing the balls. And it's not just balls. It's also let it be said, some of your drawings are beautiful as well. So
thank you. I try. I have a little bit of here and there,
Yeah.
It's hither.
It makes the balls even more uncomfortable, I'd say, when it's like, oh, that was really beautiful. Oh, balls again.
Of course. Yeah. Sometimes I'll hide balls in there. There's some drawings that people haven't even seen the balls in there. It's like a Where's Waldo sort of thing.
Amazing. Jon, I had the best time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Jon's great, isn't he? Man, did I ever enjoy my chat with him this week. I appreciated what he had to say about, the timing of things and them happening when they're supposed to. I'm a fairly impatient creative, and there's always a part of me that's just like pushing. And on the podcast, I'm often talking to people who are on the other side of the things that they built. So when I was talking to Jon, I was like, well, maybe I feel the way that he felt when he was 42, frustrated. Or maybe it's just been a tough week. I don't know. Jon, thank you for being on the podcast this week. Thank you for your art. Thank you for your perspective. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Thank you for the testicles. Today's podcast was produced by me, Ryan Leacock, with music by Bajel. I think that's what I said. Special thanks to Aaron from Him and Her for all the support of the show. Thank you to you for listening. You can support the podcast by donating to our podcast coffee. Set that up this week. Or sharing, liking, and subscribing. You know what to do. Everyone needs help. Have a good week, guys. Do the work. Keep showing up. See ya.